The following podcast may be explicit. Shedcast presents Adventures from the Shed, a tabletop RPG podcast. You can find us online at adventuresfromtheshed.com. Listen into this special bonus episode as we recount memories of our first year here on the air at Adventures from the Shed. Mickie, JJ, Kurt, and Joe talk about the best and worst of the previous 12 months. Enjoy the podcast.
Hi, and welcome to the Shed for a special episode where we're going to have our birthday anniversary episode.
Woohoo!
I am Joe, and this is...
Happy birthday to us. Hi, this is Mickie.
And that is...
JJ.
And that is...
Kurt Schumacher.
And we are part of the original cast of Adventures from the Shed. From the original cast, Mike
We're
is
80%.
not here. Mike has chose to move on to something else. It was great to play with him. I'm sure some of the memories of Mike playing with us will come up as we do this special anniversary episode. We're going to talk a little bit, for those who are interested in hearing it as a bonus episode, we're just going to have some memory recap of things we've done over the last year of recording Adventures from the Shed here from the Shed.
Did you think we would make it to a year?
Actually, I thought we'd make it to 2. We just only halfway there.
Do you think we'll make it to 2 now?
I think we might.
We might make it to 2. So this is like
I wasn't even ready and I got it.
when they do like shows and they cut their cake for like the 100th episode. Is that like the equivalent of our podcast?
I don't know. I feel like we were like little 12-year-olds at the dance looking across the room saying, should I dance with him? And now we're like
12 and a half.
We're like cuddled close together, slow
That
dancing
is
to
cool.
I'll be there for you.
Of course,
Get your
Kurt and
hand
I
off my
regularly
ass.
sit about 8 feet apart. Yeah. So,
1980s.
yeah, so we've had now, JJ, you'd mentioned you wanted to talk about some of the campaigns we've had.
Yeah.
Let's see if collectively amongst the 4 of us, we can actually remember what the hell we've done over the last year. What campaign did we start with? Does anyone remember?
Did we start
Van
with the
Dalen.
starter set?
Vandalen.
Dungeons and Dragons starter set.
Vandalen.
The Secret Minds of Fandelver, which is a great adventure.
All right, pop quiz for you, Kurt. What were the character names of the first 4 characters?
I played the dwarven cleric Thorin Stormstriker.
Okay, what did Mike play?
Mike,
Sir Walter.
I think in that one he was Sir Walter Moss,
Yeah.
who was the obsessive compulsive.
No help from anyone else.
Right, he was
This
the
is all
obsessive
Kurt. Pop
compulsive
quiz.
fighter.
Yeah.
We had Bree Greenbottom.
Bottle.
She
But
was
close.
the rogue who liked to shoot people in the knee.
Yes.
And we had, I think JJ was a mage in that one, and he
was a wizard.
oh,
mage.
yeah, wizard, mage, same thing. For me, I'm a newbie.
Of course.
And he generally just shot
What was
Ray
my
of Frost
name?
and
Yeah, what was the
lightning bolts at
character name?
everyone. Ferris.
Ferris. Very good.
Ferris.
And
Yes, 4 for 4.
You mentioned newbie, Kurt. I'm curious because we are now on a 1-year episode. We've been doing this podcast for a year. As a general rule of thumb, how long can you claim to be a newbie?
I'm going to go for 3 more years.
Okay, so you can be a newbie for 4 years.
4 years.
I feel like compared to everyone I play with, I'm a moron. So I'm just going to hold newbie
but
rank.
that itself shouldn't define you as a newbie because I think technically you may continue with that ranking.
In all seriousness, when I GM'd the Pathfinder beginner box last month, I said in the introduction, this is a beginner box, but to be honest, none of us playing this are beginners. And I included myself. I feel like I finally have hit the point where God knows JJ knows 100 times more than me, and Mickie knows how to roleplay way better than I do and all that. But I feel like at this point, I certainly am not an expert by any stretch, but I can sit down with a new game with a new rule set and bluff my way through it. And if you can bluff your way through any rule set, you're not a newbie.
Fake it till you make it.
Exactly.
Fake it till you make it.
Sounds good.
Now, having
Now,
said
hey,
that-
let's do a pop quiz for Mickie. Mickie, do
Oh,
you
dear.
remember any of the Pathfinder character names?
No.
No? That was easy.
That was only one. That one I can do, but
Yeah.
that was only one session.
But you know them. That's why I
I do
didn't
know
ask you. I played Ezrin. I can remember the classes and the races.
I can remember the classes and
names
the races,
so
but I
easy.
remember their pictures, but not their names.
Yeah,
that
I remember the pictures, not the names. I know yours was
You were-
the scarred, kind of like just growl.
She was
Horde.
Valoros,
Valoros,
the
yep.
fighter.
I was the one that was kind of like Middle Eastern
and you
looking.
couldn't remember. It was Kira.
Kira.
All right. And
And-
then Brittany, who is not on microphone right now, but keeps talking anyway,
Mauricio.
was Merciel,
Mary, the
rogue. Yes,
But
Mary.
the best test, and
Yeah.
this is for Joe,
Oh, crap.
And I loved this game, and I had a ton of fun. I can remember everything about my character, but I can't even remember his name. Name 2 characters from Adara.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Oh, Adara.
Oh, snap. I ran that game, didn't I?
Yeah, you did.
All right. So, character names. This is going to kill me. However,
Describe them if you can't get a name.
Mickie played the sniper.
Yep.
Her character was a sniper in that game, and I remember conversations between her and JJ about switching ammunition between high explosive and non-high explosive ammunition. I remember that. JJ's character was the tank. Frank the Tank?
Frank the Tank.
It was Frank the Tank. I remembered that.
Well done.
Mike played the guy with the punchy fist.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
I
the
can't
power
remember.
gauntlet.
Yeah, the power gauntlet.
gauntlets.
I can't remember the name of that character either. And Kurt played the gnome with a heart out of gold and the dragon.
Right, I had a shotgun and a dragon.
Yeah,
That's all I remember.
exactly. You got
I
to
was a
ride
gnome
a
with a
dragon.
shotgun and dragon. And
Yes.
God dang, I want to play that character again.
Yes.
We should play that game.
But yeah, so Adara was another one we played. So D&D starters, that Pathfinder beginner box,
Star
Adara,
Wars.
The
Star
dark era,
Wars,
Star
the dark
Wars.
era.
Dungeon World out the
We
yin
visited
yang.
the dark side briefly
did.
with the Star Wars.
Yeah, but we got
box.
super sweet dice.
We visited the grenade side. Let's be.
Oh,
Yeah,
gosh,
she
yeah,
was
the
throwing in a grenade.
I would throw a grenade. Why do they have these in the starter set? For
It just
goodness
it
sakes.
kills everything.
We
It
all got
wipes
super
everything
sweet
out.
dice with a super sweet system. We just need to play a better game with it.
Yeah, that's something Kurt and I talked about a little bit earlier. We might revisit it, but if we do, it will be as the actual Star Wars game, not as a box.
Okay.
Because we have the cool dice from it. I thought the system was kind of neat.
And
but,
people are loving the game. They're
it sucked
loving
ass.
the game.
Maybe we did
sucked
it wrong.
ass. It was horrible.
No, the beginner box just blew.
Yeah, the adventure was poorly written. We even went back and reviewed it, and we looked at the scenario, and it just hurt.
But you know what didn't hurt?
What?
As a newbie?
Yeah?
Dungeon World.
Dungeon World.
No.
was
Freaking cool
fun.
is that game?
Best.
Yeah, you liked it?
It grew on me like a
It
fungus.
did? Cool.
Like, at the end of the
a
day-
fungus.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was dark, and it had a lot of crap
Well, remember,
to feed
like
it,
I think we
and-
did a sidebar where we talked about our different games, and my problem with Dungeon World was just I like my boxes, and I like to color within the
Yeah.
box. And Dungeon World, the lines are a little fuzzy. I think the more I played it, the more I understood it.
Yeah, and to be
Cool.
honest, like if I had to pick after a year, and the best thing about playing at the Shed is we've tried a bunch of different games, which I love, and hope we keep doing. If I had to pick, I would pick D&D 5th edition, but I would pick it because I feel like it combines the best of Pathfinder or D&D 3.5 with Dungeon World, and it kind of mixes them in the middle, and especially the way you play it, which is a little bit looser than even 5th edition pure rules. I feel like the folks at Wizard of the Coast looked at D&D and said, let's make it a little more rules light. Let's take the best of Dungeon World. Let's kind of try to make something new. And 5th edition is not perfect, but it's pretty darn cool. And yeah, we need a break. We get looser. We play some Dungeon World. We want to do something else. We try new games. But man, 5e is cool. Having said that, I don't think I would appreciate it as much as I do if I had not played Dungeon World. Because like there are things I don't like about Dungeon World. But man, it was fun to have that freedom. Like particularly when I was playing the Druid, to just be like, for the next 45 minutes, here's what I want to do. Here's how I'm gonna just describe it, and it happens. Mm-hmm. If
That's
I roll,
cool.
it happens. And if it doesn't, I describe what happened when the
Well, it
roll
doesn't
didn't come
happen.
through.
Yeah.
That was cool.
That was really neat.
For Dungeon, like I've loved all the campaigns so far. Adara has been what I call the surprise favorite. Like
Yeah.
I did not go into Adara expecting to like it as much as I did. And that's kudos to the Adara team, and I'm hoping that if they come up with another, a more advancement in their materials, that we can get to play test that as well.
As a note on that one, they had a Kickstarter after for their Traveler's Guide to Idara, which is essentially campaign settings which can be used in different systems, not just the Idara system. And I'm expecting to hear from that in November, so not too far away from now. And we may end up using some of that material as we move forward as well.
So
Yeah,
stay
in all
tuned.
seriousness, if
Yeah.
Adara, if they got back in touch with us, and I would love to play that again. I still think they need to do a better job for beginners. Like for true RPG newbies, that is a tough system.
There's a lot of modifiers.
But if they do it either a beginner box or an adventure like the equivalent of the Pathfinder beginner box with a good couple of pages of description of how to play that game has serious potential. I think every one of us, including Mike, had more fun playing that than we thought we were going to have.
Definitely.
And I can attest to the whole. It's a very, very deep end. I think I went through that book maybe 3 or 4 times before I started making a character, and that book isn't thin.
It's not light reading.
No, but that's awesome. I mean, I think when you get into a game, I kind of came into this all as, I keep saying I'm kind of the newbie, but I am in the sense that I don't know the Forgotten Realms, I don't know Eberron, I don't know Dark Sun, I don't know Galarian well. But when you start liking playing a game, at least for me, I want to deep dive into it. I want to read the novels. I want to read the manuals. Like, it's really exciting. And I think Adara, like Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, like Pathfinder, has a world that they could really build on, which is exciting.
Yeah, they do.
And it's all steampunk, so you can cosplay.
It's cosplay, and it's different.
Go.
I love pure fantasy, high fantasy. I love it. But it's nice to have something a little bit different, and in that Adara world, you get fantasy and dragons and orcs, but you also get shotguns and trains and hot chicks and goggles.
I thought it was kind of neat as part of my descriptive element as the game master for that. I was able to use things like metal and vehicles and
turrets.
Turrets and steam horses, where they have this weird in the game. It's just this element that allows them to be powered. It's not like coal-powered steam or something. It's just this energy that powers them. And I'm describing things like puffs of steam popping out of the shoulders of the drivers on these vehicles, and it's that narrative element that I normally don't have in a D&D game. It was kind of neat to be able to throw that stuff into the part of the gameplay.
That's the weakness, I think, that all the D&D, Pathfinder, and the 5th edition 3.5 is that medieval story set.
Yeah.
Like,
You're limited.
You are limited to the medieval story set. I mean, granted, there's magic, so there's more to it, and that's something I found interesting in the Dungeon Master's Guide. They actually have laser rifles and grenades.
Yeah, they give you options to go crazy.
So you can go forward in time if you want to.
Yeah.
Right. I totally agree. And now that I've played enough, I still love the fantasy setting, but I can see where if you've been game mastering in D&D for 20 years, I don't know. It'd be fun to try something like Adara or Star Wars.
It is. And to your point, Kurt, I've been having a blast running and playing in different things while we've been in here. It's been playing in the podcast, and Adventures from the Shed has given me more diversity in the game systems that I've been playing and running. I love the idea of we have now played fantasy in several flavors between D&D, Dungeon World, and Pathfinder. We've played space with Star Wars, that's the words. And then we've played a kind of fantasy, semi-modern with steampunk with Adara. It's like we've covered a really wide gap of things.
But if you said tomorrow, if we jumped into the real Star Wars, Force and Destiny or Age of Rebellion or whatever, we would have a blast. We could play that for 3 months and have a blast. Having said all that, I will say after a year, man, 5th edition, particularly that starter set, for newbies, I am dying to Dungeon Master that Fandalin adventure for people who've never played Dungeons & Dragons. Like
D&D starter set.
You get for $11.99 on Amazon. For $11.99 on Amazon, you can buy that box set, or for $19.99 at your friendly local gaming store. Yeah. And by the way, if you play games and you play Magic, and you're not supporting your local gaming store, you're just shooting yourself in the foot. So buy a little from Amazon, buy a little from your gaming store. You got to do it. But having said that, for less than $20, you've got somewhere between 10 and 30 hours of adventure to take newbies through and introduce them to D&D with fun, cool, varied adventures, which for us as somewhat experienced players, we talked about, is it too railroad? Is it too boxed in? Whatever. For newbies, that is an amazing starter set.
And not just for newbies. Because I had fun playing that.
I had a blast. I'd still want to play in that world.
It left a great taste in my mouth as well.
Yeah, that's a great. So let's talk a little bit about that. Some of the memories I have from the starter set. Our first 16 episodes, I believe it was, from the character creation right through the end, where I'll go right to a memory where Bree is prying jewels out of a statue and bringing the roof down
the roof.
One of my favorite memories. I had talked to Kurt a little about it earlier. I would have been happy if that ended as a total party wipe. That would have been
It was
an
pretty darn
awesome
close.
ending. It would have. What other cool memories do we have of those first 16 episodes?
From the first 16 episodes, I told the Bree, because she was all like gung ho homicidal to kill one of the people that like owed her money or whatever.
I was gonna
I was
shoot
like,
him in the knee.
no, let him run.
No.
Yeah, and then he came back to bite us in the ass, and I was like, I'm going to kill you. And I actually rolled a natural 20 on my first attack to him and obliterated him from full health to 0.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember one of your quotes was like, "I hate being wrong" or something.
Exactly.
Like that, right?
Right. I love. So I like combat. I like fighting. It's fun. I know that's kind of a big part of D&D, but I really do. And I'm not saying I'm good at it. I don't think I am, but I really like the role playing, and I like the characters, and I tend to want to take a diplomatic tack before we fight. So I enjoyed playing with Mike. I think his characters are freaking hilarious.
Yeah.
Like everyone, not just the names. Like his characters were just funny. He was a funny dude.
Yeah.
He didn't talk a lot, but when he talked, man, he made me laugh. And it's a bummer that he's doing other things, but that's the way it goes. And fortunately, we still have a great group. But I do think when I think about the first year, I mean, I'll think about obsessive compulsive. I have to have a clean room,
Yeah.
Sir Walter Moss, and that kind of stuff. And
One of my favorite quotes from him, I can't remember who was doing the dice and adding up at the time, but in the middle of it, he said, "Life math is hard." And it was like perfectly timed, and it was delivered well. It was one of my favorite quote memories from the series. It's kind of like, I'm going to roll around in the beaver pelts.
Oh God, we all know I love beaver pelts,
Yes.
especially since I play with boys.
Yes.
Well, and what's fun about this year for me, and I mean, you probably have felt this for 20 years, but for me, getting back into playing this with people, because as
Hold on.
Supposed
Who
to.
else do you play
well,
with?
no, but I mean, if you've listened from the beginning, you know, like I played D&D in 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, and then I didn't.
And
I
those
got
weren't
out of
people.
it, and I played computer games by myself, and so. The reason I got back into this a few years ago is that I wanted the social aspect. I wanted to sit around a table with people and communicate.
And guess what you're doing right now?
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
So, 120 hours on Dragon Age is awesome, but it's by yourself. And,
Yeah.
and I love it. Dragon Age is freaking awesome. I'm replaying it again. But I like watching the personalities of all of us, whether it's Britt or Mike or JJ or Mickie or Joe or me, however it's configured. I mean, like, I'll think we're going to go one way, and JJ will say something that is so, to me, absurd that it just takes it a completely 90 degrees. And then I'll think, well, we're going to do something, and Mickie will do something completely different from what I would have done. But it's beautiful. It's like improvisation. It's like jazz. It's just fun to watch.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
It
call
plays
this
out.
the wrecking ball.
I call
it the wrecking ball.
and he teabags the wall.
Fireball the shack, baby.
Oh
Yeah, and I mean, it's complete improv.
Yes, it's a lot of fun. Moving on past the starter set, one of the things that I liked because I was able to play as well, not just run the games, but all of the sidebars where JJ was testing out different D&D combats. Some of the fun parts there, and we have these on our YouTube channel for videos for people who are interested in seeing it. But we have some cool video there, so you can see us actually playing the game as well as the maps we used, or in some cases we used the dungeon tiles, and there was some cool stuff there. But I just remember things like the werewolf couple. We had some fun with that. We had some fun with traps in the room.
Mind
And
flayers.
Saunders!
Mickie mentioned Saunders. I played Saunders, the elf ranger.
I think I laughed throughout that entire
We had mind
recording.
flayers and death tyrants. And
Yeah.
The mind flayer, yeah. Thea took on a mind flayer by herself. That was brilliant.
Well, yeah. What else you gonna do?
I really
JJ,
do like. I like the variety of what we've done, and going forward, I don't know that we'll keep that. We may just get into a campaign and roll, which is cool. But I do think for the first year, the variety, the different types of games, the strategic combats, very fun.
What'd you like about those sessions you ran, JJ?
They were so informative. They helped me figure out what I needed to do for the session I had with the weekend with the boys, and it really did show me the strength and the stamina of D&D of 5th edition. Like the fact that this edition does seem to be pretty well balanced compared to editions past. And I think the thing that I'm most excited about going forward is that we're going to actually stick with, like, have a longer running campaign and focus more on the story aspect. Like, that's something that I'm very, very excited about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's pretty important to recognize, and JJ, you know more about it than I do, so feel free to correct or modify what I say, but I mean, D&D was in a tenuous position or a precarious position prior to the release of D&D Next / 5th edition. I mean, if 5e didn't come out strong, I mean, D&D could have really been in a bad place relative to Pathfinder and other RPGs. And I feel like for Wizards of the Coast, which is owned by Hasbro, like they are in a really solid spot to grow a strong game going forward. And if they do it, I'm not saying they're going to do it, but if they do it right, like they have the chance to really reestablish it as the premier role-playing game.
If we want to talk about like strategic stuff right now, I think the only thing they're lacking is digital tools.
Totally agree.
We definitely need digital tools.
They just released an app, from what I understand.
But to me, what we need is a virtual tabletop and digital character sheets. And I don't mean a form fillable PDF. I mean a digital character sheet. Like when you said an app, I want something that allows me as the game master or dungeon master to be able to look at your character sheet that you entered in an app somewhere, and I want to see it on my screen, and I want to see that you've got 5 hit points left. To me, that's important.
A la I4E.
I don't want you to know I have 5 hit points.
Totally agree. And they know that. They're just being stupid.
Yeah, and it's been slow in coming. I mean, they've been out for over a year now.
They had a couple of people, or a company, Project Morningstar,
right,
that was supposed to do it for them. I'm not really sure what happened there.
Yeah.
But like, and going back to what you said about, I know that 4th edition was incredibly polarizing for the player base. And I'm not entirely certain why, because it's probably one of my favorite editions. I loved the supremely tactical aspect of it. The fact that combat was so rich and nuanced. Even if you don't like the combat side of it, let's face it, D&D is a combat system. The role play is completely outside of the rules.
It is, yeah.
So, like, having a rich rule set for having incredibly nuanced combat can only supplement your role play. Like, people were complaining that there was no role play in 4th edition. I recognize that the 4th edition combats did take insanely long.
that happened.
I think that was what happened, right? A lot of people got tired of 3-hour combats.
Yeah. So
what do you think about generally I mean, I don't want to get too far into the depths, but having played it now, what do you think about like advantage, disadvantage? Because that's a major...
It's so simple. I love it. And it does speed up combat, and I love how fast combat is in 5th edition.
Yeah.
I really like
that.
I
was surprised by that, because I remember, those marathon 4th edition sessions.
Yeah, like starting at 9 o'clock and the battle ended at midnight, and holy moly, I'm tired now.
It's surprising how fast they go now.
Yeah.
So with that, we've talked about now. We started with the D&D 5th edition. We had some Adara play. We had some Star Wars play. We had the D&D combat sessions, the encounters with JJ. We just went through a Pathfinder beginner box with Kurt. Mickie, what did you think about that? How did you like the way that worked out?
Kurt was the best.
Kurt was the best DM. I'm sorry, Joe. Ever.
I was going to say that.
No.
But, yeah.
With Pathfinder, I went in with no preconceived notions because I'd never played anything like that before, except for D&D. I hadn't played Pathfinder before.
Yeah.
I liked the character sheets a lot. I loved that it was all built for you and everything was easily accessible. I wasn't crazy about the ending. Like, a lot of it didn't really make sense, but I think that was just a starter set. I think that would be a really cool game to play long term.
Cool.
It seems like it's very adaptable and very, very fluid, so you can make whatever you want and play to your strengths or not. So I was pleasantly surprised by it.
And I may have blown the ending a little bit on that, but I was thinking about in a perfect world.
After you blew the beginning and the middle, no one really noticed anything. Yeah.
I think in a perfect world, I would love to have to play twice a month. Like, forget about the shed. Forget about if we had a podcast. I'd love to play twice a month and play a Pathfinder rules-heavy game one time a month, and D&D 5th edition or Dungeon World once a month. I think that would be really, really fun to have 2 simultaneous campaigns going.
That'd be pretty cool.
That's like 2 weekends a month, man.
Yeah. I mean, it would be. I think that'd be fun.
Think of all the time you'd have after your wife left you.
Oh wait, yeah, it's only a matter of time.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I've got a young half tiefling that's interested
Like
in me, so I'm good.
the half-halfling. We've got a quarterling. in our
We've
mix.
got a quarterling in the mix.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, though, before we sign, I don't know how much more we're going to do, but I will say, to Joe's credit, I mean, first of all, Joe has run almost all of these games, which is an incredibly, I mean, even though I know the way you do it is relatively minimal prep, it's a ton of work, it's a ton of emotional energy, and you're absolutely to be commended for that. But I also, in all seriousness, Dungeon World in particular, I've thought about running, and that is a awesome but daunting system for a GM. And I think to be able to run Dungeon World well, and I know you've done it for us and you've done it for your Monday night game, that is, I mean, that's serious work and a serious commitment and serious creativity. And I honestly think, although we bust each other's nuts all the time, like that's really awesome. And I think it's important at this point to recognize like what you do for us and what you do for your other gamers.
And Kurt, I'd like to commend you on your impeccable taste.
But I mean, and on top of that, he produces all of our podcasts.
Yeah.
So hats off to Joe.
Hold on, JJ, you have to say something nice now. I've got a wood.
I agree with I agree with Kurt in that.
He has lustrous brown hair.
He's so pretty.
And you've lost a fantastic amount of weight, and I want to
I've
congratulate
been
you
working
for that.
on that. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, actually, for anyone who cares, from the time we started a year ago, it's the anniversary episode, I'm down about 40 pounds from there.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah,
I'm
thanks.
down
Thank you very
30.
much.
Man, you all think we just sit here and eat Doritos and drink beer, but man, today we had salads and
I actually
carrots
still
and
have celery
Celery.
and carrots on my plate.
Yep,
Yeah.
I think
And I've only had 7 beers.
That's 'cause we got to get
53 for
training for
myself.
Gen Con and Dragon Con. We got to be able to walk all those steps.
Dragon.
So hold on, JJ, were you saying something nice about me? 'Cause
Yeah, yeah.
if so, please continue.
The Dungeon World, like I think that there's as far as D&D, there's more crutches for the DM and like the rules. They really help prop the DM up. Whereas Dungeon World is so open-ended, the GM has to really know where they want to go with the story, so to speak, because otherwise the game falters.
Mickie, what's this hand
I'm doing
motion thing?
my little, like, my wrists are tight.
Sorry, Mickie distracted me momentarily. Thank you all for the comments. And I would say I've had a blast. As you guys know, and I don't remember if we'd recorded this early on, but I had talked to I think about 15 different people before we started this podcast. This is a group I chose. I'm very happy with the group that we had started with. Kurt has provided some of the best humor, some of the best humor. And as he regularly talks about how dumb he is while demonstrating how smart he is at the same time.
My favorite
it's
lines
great. Yeah.
of all time are, I just have 2 Harvard degrees, but I
Yes.
can't roll or fucking role
You can't do
play.
math. Yes, 2 Harvard degrees, and I can't add 2 plus 5. Right? Those are some of my favorite lines. JJ always dependable with the checking up on the rules and being ready to fill in wherever needed. And Mickie, well, shoot him in the knee, Mickie.
That's all we
Shoot
do.
him in the knee.
That's all we
and
do.
then roll around in beaver pelts. And I think we'll wrap it up for this anniversary bonus episode. Hopefully you guys enjoyed listening to us recount our last year of playing here at Adventures from the Shed.
And hey,
we'll post
comment
this up.
comment
Yeah,
on the
definitely.
website. Tell us what you thought was a favorite. Tell us what system you thought you liked the best of all we played, and maybe we'll revisit it.
Exactly. You've heard us on this episode that we're definitely willing to revisit any of the systems we've played. We've had some favorites. We've had favorites with D&D 5th edition. Everyone's loved Dungeon World. Everyone's liked Star Wars, just not the beginner box. And everyone had a blast with Idara. So we're definitely willing to play these games again. Pathfinder is another one we would start. We have just started, if you haven't checked out our regular feed here, we have just started the Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition campaign, which we plan on being a long, ongoing campaign. We will continue with sidebar episodes, but we will continue with this Dungeons & Dragons campaign as we move forward. And we want to thank everyone for a great year of listening to us, for that matter, at Adventures from the Shed. For myself, Joe, Mickie, JJ, and Kurt, we're going to sign off and say thank you and
Penis.
Bye-bye. Thanks for listening.
bye.
Giant penises.
Joe here, and I'd like to extend a warm thank you to everyone who made the first year special. Mickie, JJ, Kurt, Mike, Brittany, Chris, Kat, Bridget, and Kevin have given the podcast some great memories. Thanks for joining us. The preceding podcast was brought to you by Shedcast. You can find us online at adventuresfromtheshed.com.